Israeli and Turkish delegations met in Azerbaijan to head off a looming major military conflict between the two powers in Syria. Hi, I'm Hanan Lischinsky. Welcome back to All Israel News. And once again, we're going to talk about a looming security risk in the region today. There is, as I mentioned at the outset, a looming major conflict between Israel and Turkey. Azerbaijan is involved. Syria threatens to be the battleground of a new clash of these two major regional powers, and we'll try to explain what's going on and how the issue will develop in the coming days. Now, if we're looking back into the history of the region, Israel and Turkey really weren't enemies. They used to be friends, even military allies, with IDF forces training together with Turkish forces, even training in the region, in the maritime areas close to Turkey, so on and so forth. But this by now is several decades back. And almost 20 years ago, a guy named Recep Tayyip Erdogan came to power in Turkey, first as a prime minister, and today he's the president, of course. And he really took Turkey from this, took it from being a more secular country, a country that became a NATO member, a very close US ally, and made it into what it is today, which is a near enemy state of Israel. And even after Erdogan came to power, things didn't change immediately, but they changed slowly over the years. He more and more revealed his Islamist convictions, and in this manner, Turkey, that really used to be one of the major touristic destinations for many Israelis. Many older Israelis have very fond memories of spending their vacations in Turkey. All of that is gone, and one of the major peaks in the increasing tension, in the developing enmity between the nations, came in 2010 when the Mavi Marmara ship and really a convoy of ships tried to break through the Israeli sea blockade and break through to Gaza. So that kind of connects us to the larger issue where we are today. So Israeli security forces, Israeli commandos at that time took over this ship convoy. In the ensuing fighting, several Turkish citizens were killed. But in the coming years, the relations would kind of improve, and that continued until 2022 or even 2023, right up to the Gaza war. So there even was talks of President Erdogan possibly even traveling to Israel, meeting Prime Minister Netanyahu in an effort to really restore their relations. But then, as we know, the Gaza war broke out. Hamas invaded in 2023 in October, and all of that ended with a bang. And Turkey very clearly, very quickly took the side of Hamas and really declared its support for Hamas and for the Palestinians and against Israel. The next major step in this conflict, in the next period, really started at the end of last year when the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham group and several other rebel groups in Syria started. They really started out from close to the Turkish border, and they started their march south, took over Damascus, took over the government of Syria, and now this Islamist terror group, which was a close ally of Turkey, took over Syria, the major nation state on Israel's northern border. It's a huge state, much larger than Israel, and historically Syria was a regional power. Now it's a very weak power that is being dominated by Turkey. Turkey really helped the new president Ahmad al-Shara to gain power, and now Turkey is poised to take over the role that was once filled by Iran, and is really trying to establish itself as the new patron and the new regional power in the area. And in this way, they're trying to take over bases, military bases within Syria, and not just on the border, but in central Syria, very close to Israel's northern border. And this is really where we got very close to a direct first military confrontation between Turkey, which is still, as I mentioned before, a major US ally, a NATO member, and Israel. So when Israel started to identify these efforts by Turkey to establish itself particularly in 3 Syrian air bases, maybe put troops there, maybe even put air defense systems and planes there, which would threaten Israel's aerial superiority in this region. The Israeli Air Force struck and nearly completely destroyed these 3 air bases in Palmyra, one airbase that is called T4 or Tias, and an airbase near Hama. Now, there even were reports that are unverified to the best of my knowledge that Turkish troops were killed in those strikes that were conducted last week and in the weeks before. As I mentioned, I don't think that's true, that is unconfirmed, but that is certainly the danger. And if something like that would happen, this conflict, this brewing conflict, could escalate into a direct confrontation very quickly. So apparently both sides decided to take a step back. As mentioned, the US is a very close ally of both Turkey and Israel. And particularly, President Donald Trump is a close friend of Netanyahu and also has very good relations with Turkish President Erdogan. So when Netanyahu was in Washington just 2 or 3 days ago, they talked about this issue as well. Now, Trump briefly mentioned these tensions and said that if both sides wanted to, he could help and he could solve this issue very quickly. But there is another close friend of both of these nations, and that is Azerbaijan, which is also a Turkic kind of nation state. They speak a language that is mutually intelligible with Turkish, but on the other hand, they're also very close allies with Israel. There are military ties, there are financial ties, and Azerbaijan is on the Iranian border. So with that, it's very important for Israel to have an ally that can threaten Iran from that side. And so this past Wednesday, Turkish and Israeli delegations traveled to Baku, the capital of Azerbaijan, to meet for the first time and to try to find each other's red lines, try to talk about the respective countries' interests in the region, specifically in Syria. And the first indications that we have show that this appears to have gone well. There were sources saying that the talks would continue, that both sides had successful talks. At least there have not been any indications that there was heightened tension or something during the talks. So that, of course, is a very hopeful sign. But there was also a briefing from an Israeli source who really said, who reiterated, stressed that the Turkish presence in central Syria is a red line for Israel, and Israel will act to prevent this. So for summing up this situation, for now, with the start of these direct talks, it seems that the development that very quickly escalated these tensions has been stopped for the moment. An Israeli security source said that Turkey at the moment does not have any interest in escalating this conflict, and the same is true for Israel. Israel has legitimate security concerns along its border with Syria. There was a demilitarized zone that the former Syrian army just vacated, basically creating a vacuum that several of the myriad Islamist groups that remain in Syria could enter there. They could entrench themselves there along the Israeli border, so that is something that very obviously Israel will prevent. But Israel does not have any larger regional ambitions. It does not have any ambitions to operate in central Syria, for example. It seems that at the moment, Israel really just wants to prevent the entrenchment of Turkey in central Syria and maybe a creeping advance toward the south of Syria and thus to the Israeli border. So as I said, for the moment, it seems that with the establishment of these direct communication channels and with the patronship, with the mediation from the US and from another friendly country, which is Azerbaijan, it seems that for the moment, this development should hopefully be stopped in its tracks, and maybe, possibly, Turkey and Israel can find a modus vivendi, some kind of agreement for the immediate future. However, in the coming years, we will have to see what this means that Turkey establishes itself in Syria. Turkey has offered to also rebuild the Syrian army, and that is something that is sure to draw very close attention by the Israeli security services for years to come. Here at Al Zura News, we will continue to observe this development very closely and bring you reports about Syria, about Turkey, and all of the other issues that are facing Israel at the moment. So please leave a like, leave a comment, let us know what you think about this situation, about Israel's and Turkey's actions, and follow this channel and all our other social media outlets.